Hi everyone, I'm Daniel and I'm with SuperFang99. We're here to finish up talking about the Dunwich Legacy. This is the last scenario, and I'm not gonna, hold anything back. I think it's amazing. This is a scenario that, as uneven as the rest of the campaign is, in my opinion, especially many years after it's come out, this one has felt like, wow, they could do this with Arkham, and let's just dive into it and show you exactly why I feel that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, this scenario is bonkers, but in a really good way. Um, so you're gonna start at the another dimension, but the key difference with this scenario than every other scenario is that there are no other locations that get plopped out. Pretty much every other location is in the encounter deck, and we will go through them as we go through them. But there is an action on the act to discard cards in the encounter deck and choosing locations discarded by that effect to resolve its revelation ability, which, for the most part, are all something bad happens to you, and then you put them into play. And you could, totally, be at the another dimension and spawn this guy, but there's no connection. So maybe you'll have to do it again, find other locations that eventually lead there.
Yep, you're
Um,
building a path,
exactly.
which is super
And
cool. This
really
prismatic
cool.
cascade and then endless bridge, like the names of these is like perfect. It's
Yep.
exactly what I feel like we're actually doing, especially for these locations that leave play for various reasons. Like that's super cool too. And there's a rule about what happens when these leave play.
Yep. Basically, if you were ever uh, at a location that leaves play, every investigator and unengaged enemy at the location moves back to another dimension. And all of the agendas have this force effect that whenever you're moved to a location by an encounter card effect, you take a horror. And for reference, this is currently ruled as being the same as a scenario card effect, since those are basically the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That this effect from another dimension, or the effect from one of the tokens on the scenario reference card, um, can move you, and therefore you will take horror from that happening.
What about if an enemy is engaged? It just goes with you
Uh,
anyways?
it goes with you anyway, since it's with you, I guess.
It's kind of weird that they needed to say,
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. But that's basically it. At the start, you're gonna get some clues, and then you're gonna try and find the edge of the universe, which pops into play, which
Mm-hmm.
is over here. And yeah, as you'll see, they're connected to these two locations, which are connected to these two locations, which will eventually be connected back to another dimension.
Yeah, the map kind of
Um,
looks like this if you have all the locations out, but importantly, there's more than one of a lot of these locations. And
correct.
they
There's
don't all
two
have,
triangles.
yeah, good.
Yeah, two triangles, two diamonds, and four squares.
Hmm. And they don't all have connections that are two ways. Many of them are one-way connections, especially from, yeah, I guess all of them from another dimension.
Correct.
So
Um,
that's a little tricky. Like you're trying to build this like map out. You're supposed to get clues from these locations. You don't need that many clues. Like most of the challenge is finding the locations and keeping the locations out there.
yep. That being said, in order to get to the edge of the universe, you have to have at least two clues in order to enter it. And same thing when it's revealed. So if you are a seeker or a clue, for example, you'll need to get clues before you get here. Um, and good luck to any fighter that doesn't have any clue potential in getting here as well.
Yep, they need to get two clues at some point. Although I will
Yep,
say, you as a non-seeker, you don't actually have to go to the edge of the universe at all.
correct. All right. Once you get there, you'll have some story text that
Hmm.
basically says you need to get three per clues at the edge of the universe, which is a little bit tricky, um, especially in uh, higher than two player, because it's feasible that you send one person in and they won't have enough clues on them or at the location in order to get three per. For three player and four player specifically, you will need at least two people to get to the edge of the universe with at least two clues each.
That's right.
Um, so a bit tricky. In two player, this doesn't matter since if you already have two clues when you get there, there's four there. That was six total.
Hmm.
So you're okay.
Yep.
But then spend those clues and the edge of the universe will go bye bye. which does shove you back to another dimension.
which is okay.
It is okay unless there's a bunch of enemies there that you've been ignoring this entire time. And
Yep,
we'll
we'll
get
talk
to
about that
that.
in a second. You're right. And this one has the
Uh,
same icon on it, and it's Tear Through Time,
Correct.
and it's the way out.
Um, it is the way out. So remember before when you needed 2 clues to get to the edge of the universe, this time you need 2 clues to resign. And remember, this doesn't say as a group. So if you're a guardian that doesn't have any ways to get clues, bye bye.
Yeah, so this scenario often is known for like one person has to be sacrificed for so
Yes,
everyone else can get out, and that's not necessarily the case. If you're playing at least an event that can get you 2 clues, then you hang on to it till the end.
right. Again, but maybe you don't know that. So maybe you spend those clues at the edge of the universe or at the previous act as well.
Hmm.
Um, I love it because it always, as you say, it often leads to those situations of leave me behind, go on without me, because it's extremely thematic as a finale to this kind of campaign.
Absolutely. I do think that it's okay in terms of if you really try to get clues elsewhere. You have a bunch of one shroud locations.
Yes,
This is only 2 shroud. Like getting clues in this scenario is not a challenge at all. That's it's
that is true.
not the it's just something you do along the
It's
way.
getting the locations to get the clues is the hard
And
part.
staying having them stay out and moving through and not doing out and the enemies
Yeah.
and all the rest of the fun stuff that happens from the encounter deck. But yeah, like everything is 2 shroud. There's this one 4 shroud location, but you don't need clues from here. You don't need
Yep.
clues from anywhere in particular. Just you this very low number of clues throughout the scenario.
Yep. Um. All right. Let's talk about the agendas because I actually really love this agenda deck.
Hmm.
So obviously, same force effect. Um, some things happen. You'll have to discard cards, and the lead investigator will move there, which is kind of funny.
Hmm.
But all of these agendas react to the consequences of your actions. So, for the most part, um, so if you fail to save the students, you take a horror. Da da da. Um, so I believe that is if you, and this is the thing, because if you kill the experiment, you don't write in your campaign log that you failed to save the students. So you can kill the experiment. That's a way to save them. You can actually save them by spending the clues there. But if you die and or you only go for Professor Warrant Rice, then you will have failed to save the students. It's just one horror though. It's not so bad.
Yep. There's lots of other ways to get horror in this one.
Yes. This one is for everyone who was sacrificed. You need to take a brain test, and you will take damage for every point you fail by. That can be pretty bad.
Yeah, that one's kind of tough, but there's not much you can do about it.
Yeah. Alrighty. And then the big one. The guy shows up. Here he is. He is huge.
Oh my goodness.
So 4 fight, which is actually not that bad. 4 plus 6 per investigator health. So 2 player, that's 16 health. 4 player, that is 28 health, which definitely is a lot. Massive Hunter Retaliate. Cannot be evaded. Cannot make attacks of opportunity, which is nice. That
Yes.
is the only way that you'll be able to survive against this guy. He deals 5 horror, but for each of them that you decide not to take, you can instead discard cards from your deck. And then if you have no cards in your deck, you're driven insane, which I think is hilarious. And it has not happened to me yet, but it is awesome.
No, I mean, this is great with the other cards that are in this deck. We got Beyond the Veil again, Visions of Future Past. So I've not had to deal with this guy before. Usually, if I make it this long, I just have him run around. He's
Yeah.
massive, so like walking away from him is totally fine since he doesn't
Yep.
do an attack of opportunity. You just have to make sure you're 2 locations away from him.
Yep. I have yet to do this, but I want to be able to deny existence 5 his attack and heal 10 horror, and I want to do that. Heal 5 horror.
That's perfect.
That would be awesome. But anyway, yeah, this guy is fine. Also, there is something that happens if you kill him.
Yeah, there's a resolution.
Yeah, and it's just like actually that's right. Well, yeah, actually at the end of this, he attacks everyone every 2 doom, which is probably the worst part about it.
Yeah.
No matter where he is, he just is like bam bam. But yes, if you do actually kill him, you get a little kind of special ending where he he just kind of flees to another dimension, and then everyone dies. They're like, oh well, shit. Um,
You do win the campaign, I guess.
correct. You just don't get to go back home.
That's so funny.
Um, yep.
Yeah, I think this is like totally okay if you manage how many cards are left in your deck. Like if you don't have Beyond the Veil, you can use this to like almost go to the, have no cards left in your deck, and then during your turn just draw through, and then you should be able to tank this again.
Yep. Basically, yeah. Um, one last thing that I wanted to mention
Hmm.
is that there is a lot of Doom on the way to get here. So I believe it's 6 plus 4 plus 4. That is 14.
Hmm.
And there have been many times where I've beaten this scenario without Yogg-Sothoth popping out, um, which I think is somewhat disappointing. They do fix that in Return to, I think.
Yes, in a sort of
But
different way. But so
yeah,
when you go to the last part of this, you still have the act in play, right?
correct.
Okay. So you still
Yeah,
can get out.
indeed. Alrighty.
I think
That's
there's
basically the whole
also
scenario.
there's another resolution where you still win. So resolution 2 is
Yes, that happens if no resolution was reached and you were able to get to Act 4, aka you spent the clues at the edge of the universe. Because, in narrative, that is you closing the tear,
right,
basically.
right,
But you died, so everyone else saved, but you die. And only if you actually fail to get there and you all die, then do you actually lose, aka Resolution 4.
right. Okay. Yeah. So basically, if you can't make it to the tear through time, then and resign, then you still can win the campaign technically.
Exactly, but you just die.
Hmm. Okay. Cool. And counter deck.
Let's do it. So, do you want to talk about locations first?
Yeah. So
All right.
let's maybe put like one copy of each out here, just to sort of see what the
Yeah.
pathway looks like. Oh boy.
Bye-bye.
Perfect.
Yeah, this guy will pop over here.
Okay. So the way I usually do this is like, might have one or more copies of Tear Through Space just to get
Mhm.
some uh, locations with clues that are easy to get, but they have this problem where you can't leave them around too long because of the doom. I usually find this is like kind of okay for a round or two, and then just because you need to build the bridge to one of these other locations, maybe, though it's not necessary, right? So
Yeah,
you can go straight to these.
you can basically go straight to them from another dimension. If, for
Hmm.
example, if a person is on the Endless Bridge and Prismatic Cascade, they cannot reach each other. So you need to go through a tear to space to get to them if
Mm.
that is necessary.
Yeah, so it's kind of
Um,
like well, we haven't gotten to the enemies yet, but I feel like that's the sticking point. Is if you split up, that's good because then you can start getting well. Sometimes you're forced to split up, right, because
yeah,
of the treachery effects.
yeah,
But you kind of want to split up to get as many locations out as possible, and then you kind of move through.
yeah. I think for tear through spaces, you can basically just time it. There are no encounter cards that add Doom to the agenda, with one exception.
Hmm.
That is a choice. And so with tear through time, like if you have the time, put the Doom on just in case you want to get that clue or create a passageway between locations.
Plus, this can survive through the agenda flip because you can put it here during the witching hour, and
Yep,
then yeah, it won't cause the agenda to advance.
yep. That's tear through time.
Hmm.
Let's talk about Prismatic Cascade.
Sure.
For this is the one that I always want to find because it's a reliable 2 clues. Obviously, don't get the third clue because otherwise you would have to remove it.
Hmm.
But oh wait, actually, it says remove. Does that mean if I Genet the clue over, does that
No,
removing the clue?
no more Genet.
No more Genet talks. No more. Anyway, yeah, I want to find this location because it's reliable clues that you can just come back to when you need them. Um, so you get 2 clues, and then you could even be like, "Oh, that's the 2 clues I need." You can get the last one, and it would move you back to another dimension to potentially move you along a different path, right? So I
Mhm.
really like that location. It's very helpful. Um, it does discard a random card from your hand when you draw it during Revelation, and that is a little rough, but it's not the worst thing in the world.
It's just one. That's okay.
Yep, yep.
So
Uh,
your option is
Endless
to go
Bridge.
this way, lose some
Yeah,
resources.
This one's tough because one is Force Shroud, and two, when you leave it, you either place a Doom on it or discard it. Obviously, there is witching hour timings that you could do it for,
Hmm.
um, but discarding it is tough because if you have a bunch of people who have a path from another dimension to Endless Bridge to Dimensional Doorway to the edge of the universe, or for example through Tear Through Time, you'll need to just make sure you choose the right options of being like, oh yeah, first two people place a Doom, and make sure that someone just leaves it so they can discard it before the agenda advances, etc.
Right, right.
So it's a little tricky, but
Yeah, and
it's
don't forget, like, because of the way the act works, you basically have to build this map out twice.
correct.
So if you can
Albeit
leave things around, it's good, but
exactly, like you'll have to go back to another dimension at some point. So if you can maintain the path you took the first time, it's easy peasy to complete that fourth act.
Mhm. So if you do go through the endless bridge, you end up here at the dimensional doorway, which
Yep,
is kind of funny because as this one makes you spend resources, you might have lost them already from the revelation effect.
exactly. Yeah. So that's tough. Especially let's see, there's a couple, yeah, because I mean, Beyond the Veil is the hex card to watch out for that.
Hmm.
And also Arcane Barrier,
Oh
because if
gosh,
that pops here, that can be very, very annoying
I don't
because
even
you
want to
might
think
have to
about
be like,
those right now, but oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah.
The other option is on Prismatic Cascade. You go to Steps
Steps of
of
Yagahal.
Yes, what you said.
I say Yaha Garl, basically.
Yahagarl?
Yeah.
Yahagarhal? Okay, sure. Drawing a weakness is annoying. If you have it in your discard pile, then yeah, you'll get it. Sorry, Wendy.
Oh
uh,
God.
um, but this one I think is just memorable because that willpower test. Uh, you're taking a test, and if you fail, uh-oh.
See ya. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
And then you're like, okay, I'm ready to pass this test. And then you draw a cultist and fail anyway.
Oh no. That's
Yeah.
funny. Then you might end up in, well, might go back to that place too.
That's true. You'll like shovel it back in and then go somewhere else, I guess.
Hmm.
Um,
Anyway, yeah, this was fine if you can pass the test and you just sort of prepare for being
yeah.
up. Oh gosh, can you be up 5 on this? I mean,
I mean, you can if
you
you're a
can.
mystic.
Yeah, that's true. Hmm. I mean, it's good. I like it. Right? It,
Yeah.
it has
It's
some
cool.
nice tension point where you're
Yeah.
thinking about it for a while,
Yeah.
and then you're good. You're home free. But then you go back and do it all over again for round 2.
Correct. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about some treachery. So we have Vast Expanse. It's basically just a giant rotting remains, which can technically do 5 horror, and that sucks.
It's
But
it's happened to me.
oh
I
God.
last time I
See it,
played.
Roland.
No, I was Agnes. I auto
Oh,
failed
okay.
it.
Oh, Jesus.
I think I actually went up like at least to 9, maybe not
Yeah.
to 10, but then I auto failed it, took 5 horror, and Agnes likes to take horror anyway. So I think I got all the way to she's got 8 sanity, I think. So I think
Yes.
I was up to 7. And I was like, well, uh, and I had Clarity of Mind level 3 out, so I just spent
Okay.
the next round just healing it all off. And it's a good thing I did, but you
Yeah.
know, it's in the deck. There's 3 of them. It's so
There are
tough.
3 of them. It's tough. Yep. And also it's a wombo combo with the skull because the skull is -1 for each extra dimensional in play.
Gosh, maybe I did draw the skull. No, no,
That's
I auto
possible.
failed it. I auto failed it.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, wormhole. You're gonna get a new location and resolve its revelation ability. I actually find that this card is helpful sometimes. Most of the time.
You do take a horror.
Yes, and then you'll resolve the revelation ability. But more often than not, you're at a location where you're like, I could go somewhere that I could use some more clues, or you're like, we need to find this location, and this might help you find it.
Yes. So I feel like a lot of this scenario is just trying to find ways to build the map out without you
Yeah,
spending actions on
yeah,
the act. And this is
it's a
actually
great way to do it.
how I won this the last time is I don't know if I was at the edge of the universe or maybe I was somewhere. No, I think it was that I was trying to get to the edge of the universe.
Mm,
I'd already gone. No, no, no. Other way around. This was out. Terror Through Time was
yeah,
out, and I'd already gone to the edge of the universe, and I'd moved back to another dimension,
yeah,
and maybe I was like trying to make my way through, and I drew this, got the connecting location, one of these probably,
Yeah.
and then was able to go there with one
Yeah.
action, get my 2 clues with look what I found, I think, and then spend them to resign.
Nice.
Yep.
Uh, Collapsing Reality. Fuck this card, man. This one always feels bad.
Hmm. I
You're
don't.
like, all right, we're ready to go. Dimensional doorway, and then you draw it, and you're like, fuck.
This is a cancel. There's a lot of hazards
Yeah,
here, right?
there are 2
Wormhole.
hazards. At least 5 total. Yeah,
So
cancel it.
there were a lot of hazards in the last one too. Maybe not a terrible. What's it called?
Oh yeah, the uh, I don't know why I said makeshift. I was about to say makeshift trap. Um,
The hazard suit.
the yeah, it's the hazard suit thing.
Yeah.
Whatever. Protective gear. There it
Protective
is.
gear. There we go.
Yeah,
The fireman outfit. Okay. Cool.
it protects against it protects against reality warping. Yeah,
uh, I mean, the train scenario has some hazard stuff in it too, so
that's true.
not a
Yeah,
bad
this
take.
campaign's a good for it. All right, Yeti Star Seeker. So it spawns at the another dimension, and he does not have Hunter, meaning that if you're out and about and this guy spawns, he does nothing. But maybe you'll be forced to come back because of some act advancing or other things going on. Um, and yeah, he's kind of tough. Far health is not nothing, but he's just like more annoying, I think.
Yeah, the force effect I think is nothing really, but
Yeah,
I found that this guy has amazing design for the scenario just because he's sitting there waiting for you to come back. And you,
exactly.
you always draw it and you're like, well, I'm not going backwards just to kill him. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And then by the time you get punted to another dimension, you're like, well,
Just like, there's
I
2 of
can't
them waiting for you.
I can't evade them. They've got 5 evade.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Yep.
Great card.
All right, Interstellar Travelers.
These
So
guys are tough.
yeah. I've always found them being really tough. So they steal clues from locations from you, basically, and they turn them into doom, and they will always get a doom no matter what when they hunt somewhere. So that's really annoying. And yeah, they're hunting. They're gonna hunt you. It's pretty bad. I think it's theoretically possible for you to plop them on a location that doesn't have any connections, but it's going to be very difficult if they ever escape from there because they might just, you know,
Yeah,
accumulate doom.
I believe that
That's
this
it.
is one of those cases where you have to look at the card and you say that the hunter means that, oh, you can, and the spawn means you can put them somewhere else and worry about it later, but you really don't want to. You really
Yeah,
need to spawn it with an investigator,
yeah,
hopefully
and
with
deal
your
with them now.
fighter, and just deal with them right then.
Yep.
Evading doesn't do anything. Like it puts it off for a round, I guess, but the 2 evade makes it seem like you can do something about that, but
Yeah.
just kill it.
Yeah. It's tough because also because it has to spawn at extra dimensional locations, it means that your fighter has to leave another dimension in order to deal with it.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people I know, and sometimes I do this, the fighter stays behind and the seeker gets their stuff because then the fighter doesn't have to worry about, causing things to fail and discarding the locations or drawing cards that discard the locations
Ooh, good
and
point.
stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
Yep.
All right, those are the scenario specific ones. They're good.
Yep.
They're very thematic. They're very they I mean again, I feel this way about this scenario more than almost all the other finales, but they really tested this one such that they knew what all the stress points were, and
Yep.
all these cards just do an amazing job at exactly that. Like extra dimensional locations in play, right? You don't want that many in play, but you do want them in play. You need them in play.
Yep.
So,
Yep. This counter deck is pretty cool. Really good.
All right. What do you think of Beyond the Veil in this encounter deck?
I mean, it's definitely thematic. We are, I guess we are beyond the veil at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that it works because of like the thematicism of it. And I think it's cool. I feel like more often than not, these cards get discarded for me.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
Because of the action on the card. So
Mm-hmm.
it rarely happens, but it definitely still can happen for sure.
Yeah, it could. I mean, there's just a lot of randomness, I think, in terms of what comes out and what doesn't.
Yeah.
The fact that these can pop out because of you dropping, or you have to draw a hex card. Which one is that? This one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, hopefully you get to draw a different one.
Right.
I mean, this one's here too.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is probably okay because you could probably force the cards, the locations to go out of play. I feel like if you, um, like, I know we put the cards out here, but there's multiple of all of them, right?
Yeah.
So you can still build out um, the same path if you just want to leave the arcane barrier on the way you don't want to go.
Yep. That being said, it gets put on the another dimension for me, and I cry every time.
That's bad. That's bad.
Especially if you have an elder thing in the bag, which is a -6.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um.
Okay,
Anyway, yeah, but it's fine most of the time.
this one's okay. I
Yep,
mean,
it's fine.
it's the same as it always was, and this one,
Yep,
you know.
same as it always was.
Okay. These guys are here, and I feel like it's the conglomeration of spheres that has killed me in this scenario.
Yeah, because they take so much time
Hmm.
that eventually you get bogged down, and maybe your location gets discarded, and then you have to go back to another dimension, then you die there, and then, yeah, it's bad.
Yep. Like I can just
Yep.
get stuck where I'm counting out how many actions I need, and then you draw this, and you're like, I can do nothing about that now.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, and hey, look, it's the servants of Yogg-Sothoth or the agents of Yogg-Sothoth. How thematic.
Hmm.
Here we go. These guys were here in
Scenario
extracurricular activity, right?
one. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. That's funny.
it is. Um,
Uh, don't choose the doom, I guess. Probably
yeah.
don't do that.
Just take the horror. So there's a lot of horror
Yeah,
in this one. I think
yeah,
that's fine for a finale. I mean, it's probably true for almost all of them. Like you need to have some healing or soak in these scenarios at the end of the
yeah,
campaigns, and that's fine. Look, it is the finale, and they crushed it. Like this is, it feels like a finale. Like every part of it feels like, okay, everything that we did so far in this campaign has led to this, a final test of the discard cards from your deck mechanic,
yep,
dealing just with extra tough treacheries. It doesn't really scale up the clue getting, but that's okay because the game doesn't have to be all about get as many clues as fast as possible. Like
right.
it is more than that. So good job.
Yeah, this scenario is awesome.
I do also, we didn't talk about the uh, the symbols here, but yeah, the scaling of the skull is amazing. The cultist token can be very helpful.
It can be
It
helpful. Can also kind of suck sometimes.
the tablet could be bad.
Yep. It doesn't need to. Not if you don't. It's not even if you fail. If he's in play, he will attack you.
Ugh, I forgot about that. Yep.
Yeah. And then the other thing is tough because it could just wipe your uh location out from under you. Have you read the hard side? It's
No.
so the cultist, no matter what, uh, will cost you to get another location, which is
Oh,
hilarious.
that's mean.
Yeah, it is mean. It's
And
like, well,
the
all right,
skull could
see ya.
be minus 1, 2, 3, 4,
It's like 10, I think.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I think.
Oh Jesus, yeah, okay. Or extra dimensional, right?
Yeah, there's four of these and then two of the other ones.
Two of these and then one of these.
Oh, one of these.
Yeah. So that's 10.
Okay, 10.
That's crazy. Um, but yeah, also that elder thing is it's now twice your strat value.
I don't know. Were they like throwing darts at a dartboard to make these? Like, sure,
I guess
whatever.
so. Double the modifier.
uh,
There you go.
let's talk about some ratings. Okay, replayability. I do feel like this one is replayable, but not like because the playthroughs are super different. I mean, they can be because you might choose which locations come out into play and whatnot. But I mean, it is the same basic idea each time. But I feel like it's the order that of encounter cards that you get, the locations that make each playthrough feel like, all right, let's go through the gauntlet. Let's see what happens. You know?
Yeah, I agree. The as opposed to our previous scenario where the encounter deck, even though it was very large and there was a lot of cards, each effect in the encounter deck didn't feel like it actually made an impact on the trajectory of a scenario. In this scenario, like one or two encounter cards can really change the flow of the rest of the scenario, whether or not your location gets discarded or whether or not you move somewhere else. It really adds a lot of chaos, I should say, to the sort of setup of the scenario and where you are, where you're getting your clues, how you're getting to the edge of the universe, etc.
Hmm.
Um,
And the
so
chaos
there's that
itself
built-in
is
replayability there.
the chaos. I don't feel like is mean chaos. I mean, it is kind of tough to deal with, but you kind of go in. You learn about what the effects are, of course, but they're um, all going to deal with you having to go back and rebuild your path, and that is the scenario. That is the one thing that it makes you figure out how to do.
Yeah, I agree. And it's nice also that the uh if for example, if they didn't have that action on the act card to bring locations out, it would feel way too random because then the entirety of the locations coming out would be dictated by the encounter deck. But because of that action, you actually do get control in order to bring the locations out. And I guess that's actually more about fairness. But anyway, I'm gonna just start with it. I'll say replayability is. I mean, it's not like it's crazy different every time. It is different, but I don't think it's crazy different. So, I'll give it a 3.5 for replayability.
All right, I'm going with a 4.
Okay.
All right, next one is on fairness. I'm just wondering, uh, what is Gloria like in this one?
Funny. Is her ability only treacheries or enemies, or is it just encounter
And it's
cards?
just encounter cards, but I like wonder how much that helps versus just.
Can you put a location underneath Gloria? How does that work?
Oh my God, hang on.
Anyway, um, yeah, probably don't do that. Uh,
Okay, I looked it up. Gloria can indeed discard um, or deal with the locations because they are non-elite cards, I suppose.
yeah, yes,
Well,
yeah,
they
they
are
are.
they are not elite cards.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
um, but yeah, she can put a location underneath her, and then there is a card that she gets, her special card, Ruth Westmacott, at least in her book version,
Yeah.
that says that when an investigator fights, attempts to evade, or initiates a skill test on an encounter card, you may discard an encounter card that shares a trait with that encounter card from beneath Gloria Goldberg, reduce the difficulty of that skill test by 2.
Wait, does initiate? Wait, that doesn't include investigate though, does it?
No, but I don't. Well, probably not. I'm thinking about that willpower test moving from the steps to.
Oh, that is initiating an ability.
It must be.
It
And
is, yeah.
even though I think so, even if it's forced, I think you are still initiating the skill test.
Although maybe you're not,
Well, I feel
because
like
I know
the.
that force because it's not a triggered ability, right? It's a forced ability, which
Yeah,
are
but
different things.
revelation effects are clearly what that card is for, right?
No, of course, yeah,
So
that's
it
true.
must work. Anyway, but that's going to reduce the difficulty to 0, which, as you know, is an auto pass as long as, well, you will pass the test as long as you don't draw the auto
And you
fail.
draw the autofill anyway.
It doesn't have to be at your
Oh, wait,
location.
wait, no, but you have to. It's a copy of the card, right?
No, an
Wait,
encounter card that shares a trait with that encounter
oh,
card.
traits, and they're all extra dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
That is stupid.
I think it sounds fun. If you can manage to pull that across, you put one of those
Tear through time
tear
underneath
through
it. That's a
times.
perfect
Yeah,
candidate. Yeah.
exactly. You save
Wow.
it. That's so
Oh
funny.
God, I need to figure out if initiating ability does work like that because that is hilarious.
Well, I think the other funny part about it is that her weakness is you draw a random non-weakness encounter card from beneath her. That card
A
gains
bunch of
peril.
locations just come out of her.
Yeah, exactly. That card gains peril. Its effects cannot be canceled, and you get minus 2 to all skills while resolving its effects. Are there any skill
There's no
tests
skill
on?
test during Revelations.
Okay. Sorry for this little
So
aside about Gloria Goldberg, but it's
this is
kind
why
of
this game
funny.
is fun.
I know. I mean, I don't even think that sounds broken. I think it just sounds kind of fun.
Yeah, I don't think it sounds broken either. It may be like you're grieving your teammates a little bit. Like we need that location. Stop putting it underneath you. But it is funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's no stronger than just throwing a gumption at the test.
Exactly.
So whatever. But anyway, fairness. That's an interesting and meaningful decision.
It is. It is.
Not gonna
As
it's a Gloria question, not anything that you get to do.
Right.
Although I guess if you do discard multiple locations, right, you get to choose which one to put into play.
Correct. Yeah. As I was saying earlier, because you have that action, it does mitigate a lot of the randomness. You are effectively spending resources that you have on your terms in order to get the locations you need. Um, Obviously, you're not searching for a location, but it is basically searching the top three of the encounter deck. Um, and for the fighters who are like, I have nothing to do, it's like, oh, just spawn some more locations.
Hmm.
Um, so it's fair in that aspect.
Yeah,
I think
I
that,
I rarely find that this is a problem, like
yeah,
that you're sitting around saying there's nowhere to go.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, most likely you'll find a character space and you'll be like, oh, okay, let's get some clues or something.
Hmm.
Um, I do think that some of the encounter cards can be unfair. Uh, Specifically collapsing reality. You cannot really do anything about that card other than cancel it, of course.
Hmm.
Um, but like that's really the only big one that's like really, really sucks and kind of can lead to like, okay, scenario over, we just lost. Um, but with that being said, I think that most of the time, um, the fairness of the scenario comes from the fact that there's a lot of ways to go about this
Hmm.
when it comes to the locations that come out and the effects on them and moving around and getting the clues. I think it's ultimately fine, and it does definitely have the right amount of pressure for this
Yes.
finale of the scenario.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That even with collapsing reality, like unless you just, I mean, there are three of them, but
Yeah,
unless you just get bodied by this, and you're not gonna draw them all, right? You're gonna, well, hopefully you're not gonna draw them all because you start discarding some of them
yeah,
from the ability, but um, you have time to build this path out a few times, I think.
yeah. I agree.
And the pressure, well, if it wasn't enough at the end and they throw Yogg Sothoth at you, and that feels like the fun kind of pressure.
Yeah, sure. So I think I will give fairness at a 4.5. I think there's tiny things that they could have done to make it extremely fair, but for all intents and purposes, it's an excellent scenario in terms of fairness.
Yeah, and you can do a lot on your turns. Like I don't feel like anyone's just sitting around doing nothing. That action
I
is
agree.
is, is so big. Yeah, 4.5
Yeah.
sounds good. All right. Bounce.
I think surprisingly, this scenario is also extremely well balanced. Um, Not just between the encounter deck and the investigators, but between investigators. It is ultimately a get clues and fight enemies kind of scenario, technically.
Hmm.
Um, I think that the one thing that is, and again, as I said before, the whole you need to get two clues to get into the location and resign. Um, can feel unbalanced, but it's okay. You know what? Let me take that back. I think that that aspect actually increases the experience for me, but maybe does lead into some kind of imbalance for the investigators, aka it punishes investigators that don't have a lot or any amount of clue getting. That being said, there are ways for them to get the clues anyway. Low shrouds, as you said before, and flex cards, as always, right? And so in that sense, it's like it just basically is saying, hey, you're gonna need to get clues, so just be aware of that. It sets up the expectation, I think, pretty well as well, um, that everyone's gonna need to get clues.
I think the
So
entire campaign has set that up, right? Think back to Miskatonic Museum,
yeah,
where it's important that everyone chip in, otherwise you're sitting around doing nothing, right?
yeah, I agree. Um,
And honestly, I don't
Definitely
feel like
sets
it's a big problem because even if you can't get clues or don't really want to, it's not like the fighters have to complete the scenario.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That
So they
they
can
don't
just sit
need to complete the
around.
scenario to win.
Yeah, they can sit around and deal with the enemies as they pop up and let the people who can get the clues just finish it out. Maybe it feels a little bad because everyone wants to make it out, but it there isn't really a punishment in terms of going through the acts.
Yeah. I will say that this scenario in particular lends itself to movement based effects and investigators extremely well. A lot of movement based effects and or Luke Robinson more than normal
Oh God,
can
Luke.
break the scenario.
Oh man, Luke.
Yeah, Luke can very much break the scenario. Um, with that being said, it's not a huge deal. And honestly, a lot of those effects already break scenarios, but
Yeah.
it definitely breaks this one more egregiously than some. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think for balance, I do think that the clue thing does hamper it a little bit in terms of balance. Again, they
Hmm.
don't have to finish the scenario, and aesthetically, it's like a home run. But I think it does drop it down for me. So I think I'm gonna put it at a 3.5 for that.
All right. I'm gonna go with a 4. I agree with you, but it doesn't hurt it so much for me. I do feel like they, at least whoever you brought should be able to contribute to the game.
Yep.
And there's multiple things that you can do. Like there's any of your strategies of dealing with enemies or dealing with getting clues is pretty much going to work.
Yep.
Movement, yes, is good, but I think that's always the case in Arkham. Experience,
Give it a 5
yep, go to 5.
right off the bat. Yeah, but I think that it's this one definitely was a really high bar to set for finales for campaigns, and only a couple, maybe even one other finale scenario in campaigns have really like brought me personally to the high of this scenario, especially on a blind playthrough. I think that maybe on, subsequent playthroughs you can kind of see the map for what it is, right? It's kind of like you instinctively have this map of the locations in your mind already when you replay it. But when you start out and you're blind and you're like, how the heck am I gonna get there? There's no way to get there. And then you figure it out yourself. You're going through, you are literally lost in time and space.
Yeah,
And
hey, you said the name of the scenario.
I did. And it's just phenomenal. So full marks.
Yeah, again, I said this before about the encounter deck and how all the scenario specific ones really add to what you are trying to do. And, well, it tries to hurt you from doing that, keep you from doing that.
Yep.
And that experience is not always the case in Arkham Horror, the card game. They don't always match things up in a way that feel like I'm trying to accomplish this task, and everything that the scenario is doing is so tightly woven around it.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is just, I want to play it right now. This is such a good scenario.
It's great.
Yeah. And, the story part here, with the endings that you mentioned, where you can finish the scenario without, well, you can win the campaign without escaping yourself, right? That's super cool. I like
Yep.
that they have these options of, you can kill Yogg-Sothoth, but you also die.
Yep.
There's some good stuff out there. Yeah, high marks, as you say. Cool. How about the campaign as a whole? Maybe we do this in a different video.
Yeah, it's your call. Do you want to do it now or do it later?
Well, I mean, I don't have like any metrics out here, but maybe we just do a short blurb about what you think of the campaign as a whole.
Yeah, sure. Um, I think that this campaign, as we just said, ends really strong. Um, I do think that for the most part, uh, most of the stinkers, if you will, of scenarios that I remember are in this campaign, unfortunately, aka Undimensioned Unseen, Miskatonic Museum, Where Doom Awaits. They're kind of
Hmm.
just stinkers.
Hmm.
But you got to give it kudos for the first campaign expansion. Um, I really love the first two scenarios and the different paths you can take. And I really enjoy a lot of the thematics going on in this campaign, the train, this scenario, even Blood on the Altar. And I think that, in fact, Blood on the Altar feels like almost like it's a very classic scenario in that sense.
Yeah.
Um, and so like I don't. It's definitely not my favorite campaign, but it's definitely not. But it stands the test of time, I think, and it definitely does serve its purpose as when you are playing this game, you should play this campaign first, in my opinion, every time, just because it while it doesn't land the mark every time, the times that it does are like extremely good, and in this initial environment, it's like perfect for the first campaign for someone to play, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you for the most part. Like, I've gone back and forth. When I first started playing the game, obviously, I liked this one a lot. It felt special in that way. And then later, um, I kind of soured on it a bit. I felt like it was too easy. I was playing it two-player often, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of scenarios that feel like there's so much doom in that you could be putting into play. The thresholds are just way too high. And with the more modern card pool, it just kind of felt like, okay, I'm just playing my deck for about, 10 turns and then I win. So I think that's kind of uneven. As you say, there are a lot of stinker scenarios, but even the ones that are good have this kind of odd tales, I think, of distribution of playing it. Like either it's like you get just bodied really quickly and it's over, or it's really easy and you didn't really feel like you played much. I do dislike some of the mechanics that keep you from playing the game to some extent throughout the campaign. Like Beyond the Veil itself is a little scary, but I've learned to sort of be okay with it. It is interesting that they haven't kind of revisited quite that type of mechanic in future campaigns.
Yeah.
Um, but overall, like for what they were able to accomplish for the first campaign, I think it's really good. It just feels like everything that's come since has tried to do a little bit more, and I think they had a better sense of what the card pool let players do later on. So there's a lot of these like rough edges. That didn't make it bad. I mean, Arkham is a great game, and playing most scenarios is still a good time. I love that they were able to figure out this last scenario as they did and kind of hit a home run with it.
Yep.
Yeah, but if I were to rank them all, I'm not sure I really want to do that right now or at all. It kind of lives at the bottom in terms of the number of times I've replayed it, just because of it being somewhat limited. But I've recently played it, and I think I feel much more strongly about it as being a good campaign rather than just like an okay one. So give it a try if you haven't played it in a while. Maybe even with Return to, which we'll talk about in a second. It has a lot to offer, and sometimes you just don't get that in every playthrough. Sometimes it just sort of is dull, but sometimes it's great.
The thing I love about this campaign is that it almost feels nostalgic at this point, and that sometimes when maybe I play it sometime in the future, and I'm like, basically it's like I can see myself getting better at the game because you interact with a lot of the scenarios in this campaign and they feel very hard, and then later on you're like, oh, we crushed it. And obviously part of that is the expanded card pool for sure. But I do think a lot of that is like you're coming back and you've learned so much that the campaign seems easier at that point.
Yeah, I agree, but it still has a lot of when the campaign doesn't mess around, it doesn't mess around.
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about the Return to. If you haven't played the Return to, you might be interested to listen to this part, but otherwise, we'll be back for maybe talking about another campaign in the future. That'll be fun. Path to Carcosa. But
Yeah.
we'll do some Return to Lost in Time and Space in just a sec. Hey, it's a bunch of spaghetti.
Oh my goodness, what is going on?
So we have how many new locations?
We have 3 new locations. These 3, and technically 4. There's also this one,
All
but
right, let's do the
these
locations
3 are in the
first.
encounter deck.
All right, so we have this one is a new symbol altogether.
Correct. Unstable vortex. Um, so you have to discard a copy of Terror to Space if able, which is cool.
That's kind of neat.
Yeah. And yeah, if you're at Unstable Vortex, you must either draw the top card in the encounter deck or shuffle it into the encounter deck.
Hmm,
So kind of a version of one of those effects.
that's interesting.
Um,
And just as a
but
reminder, Tear Through Space is this guy. This is
yes,
the one Doom one. And
this
it's
card basically adds another way for you to get to the edge of the universe.
yes,
That's the
exactly.
biggest thing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then we have two new versions of the triangle and
Yes.
diamond
With
ones.
slightly different connections.
Slightly different connections. Oh God.
Yeah.
Right,
They
because
don't lead to these ones.
they go to the unstable vortex.
Exactly.
Okay, so this one discard the top 3 cards of your deck. All right, so we're forcing
Fine.
the Beyond the Veil thing again.
Yep.
Take horror. Fine.
Yeah,
This
that's fine.
one is place 1 Doom on it or take 2 damage. After
Decent
you fail
choice.
a skill. Oh, this one's totally different. This is after you
Yeah.
fail a skill test while at this location.
Yeah. There's 4 clues though. Just don't fail. There's
Hmm.
a lot of clues.
Because you can't get rid of the doom then, unless you just fail another test and discard it.
That's right.
Hmm.
Or discard in another way.
See, I like all of these things. We didn't really talk about it in the rankings, but like the ratings rather, the fact that you have these decisions to make as you're building out things and moving people around. I know you talked about it in terms of the strategy, but I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And they
Yeah,
do make
it's really cool.
sense. Okay, now let's talk about the other location that's in play, which is Realms Beyond. And
Realms
hey, it's
Beyond.
this guy.
He's there.
He's there from the beginning.
Correct.
I love his
However,
art. His art's so cool.
yeah, it's like with planets.
All right.
Um. So yeah, he cannot be affected by any player card effects. Cannot take damage. Cannot leave Realms Beyond. So he's gonna stay there while this location is in play. However, basically all of the effects on, for example, the effect that uh that would move you to another dimension, aka your location going away.
Mm-hmm.
You instead get dropped off with Yogg-Sothoth and are now at Realms Beyond. Um, so you better get out there, or you're gonna get attacked from Yogg-Sothoth, of course, during the enemy phase. And in order to get out, you need to pass a brain or foot 3 test. And if you can't, you fail. Yeah, this is tough, but it's really cool.
Yeah. I wonder where they did this. Like, probably because you mentioned before that sometimes if you've played this and he doesn't spawn at all.
Yes, I think that was the main thing for me is that like Yogg-Sothoth is now a presence in the scenario the entire time, rather than oh he might show up at the end.
Yeah, I think this is tough, but on the other hand, if you, I don't know. I mean, those are two good stats to test. I like that they give you a choice.
Yep,
You just don't want to go there at the end of your turn.
indeed, if you can avoid it.
And then you have to pass the test, which also is going to cost you an action at least.
At least, yes.
I mean, honestly, like the way that the return twos scale difficulty a little bit, this is a good way to force you to use more of your resources, whether that's your cars in hand or whatever, which cranks the difficulty up a little bit, but not in a way that makes it, I don't know, oppressive or feels like you're playing on a different difficulty level.
Yeah. That being said, though, this location definitely makes it so that the consequences of your actions are much worse. Namely, Tablet is now always in play since he is always in play.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing at this location is a -9. So don't do that.
uh,
Don't get that. Maybe you shouldn't have taken the Necronomicon. Um,
how
and or cheated.
about, oh my God, so if you draw the cultist,
Yes.
so if you fail after the skill test, you have to go to this other location, but you can't do that unless you pass another test.
Correct.
So that's actually
Although
gives you another
it will
shot.
still, yeah, it will still put the location into play as well. But yes, it basically gives you a free chance at getting out of there,
That's funny.
which is fun. That's
Oh,
fun.
okay, okay. I like it. I think it's fun to have them in play. It's fun to have this other extra pressure. If you're playing Return 2, you should, have not necessarily a plan for this. Like you should be able to pass the test, a 3 test, no matter what investigator you are. Let's see. Joe Diamond, I guess, is the only one who doesn't like this.
Yep.
Carson.
I guess. Yeah. I mean, he gives the action to get someone else out.
Yeah.
And there's one last thing for the
Mm-hmm.
setup that is so rare that to happen, which I don't even know why they added it, but whatever. It's check your campaign log if the ritual was completed, aka if you failed blood on the altar, which is like so hard to fail.
That's scenario 5.
Yeah. And you basically get this different version of Act 2, which spawns Seth Bishop at the edge of the universe when you show up. So here he is.
So
I
would
remember him
he?
being pretty big.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, yeah. Who was the one who showed up in the last one? Was that Silas Bishop? No, Silas Bishop is the one who was in Blood on the Altar, right?
Correct. Seth Bishop is the guy you fight at the top of the Sentinel Hill.
So if you fought him then, is he still here?
Yes,
Or is
I
he, or is that
believe.
the one where you remove him from the game? No, that's the one where you kick him off the side of the hill.
Yeah,
All right, whatever. Okay.
yeah.
5 fight, 4 per investigator, 5 evade, retaliate. Uh,
Yeah, this guy's crazy.
what?
Yeah, this guy's crazy. He does get eaten by Yoxothot, though.
That's so funny. He's devoured whole and heals 6 damage from him. Okay.
Yeah,
I think they had an extra card slot and they're like, let's do something funny.
exactly. And again, I've never seen this card because I've never failed Blood on the Altar.
No, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So also just to finish the story about Yogg-Sothoth, after you get to here, then it becomes like the original version where
Yeah.
you get rid of this location, he comes here and runs around chasing you.
Yep. So
Cool.
yeah, I really like the Yoxothot change. This kind of weird, but I guess so. Why not?
All right, we have the old changes from before, but this vassal lurker instead of the um, what's the guy name? Yithian Observer,
Just
right?
the Observer. Yep.
All right, so this is, I think it just works better with the discarding cards from the top of your deck
Yeah.
theme. So yeah, these there.
Hmm.
This also discarding cards in your hand, which is, I don't know, it's just more horror.
Yep.
Infinite Doorway though I think can be rough in this one.
Yeah. Attach it to another dimension or realms beyond.
Yeah, yeah. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
I don't know if the other two matter that much, but more
Baleful
horror.
Welcome, I imagine, could be pretty tough. You want to take all of those actions a lot, I think,
It's
especially
true.
move.
Move, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Overall,
Yeah.
though, they didn't mess with a good thing. I think
No.
the improvements are good. Like I don't think there was much they needed to fix. They just tweaked it a little bit, give you a little bit more with the locations. I think these locations are great. I love having.
Yep.
I
They're
want a
really
bigger
cool.
map. I want even more locations out here. Give me as much spaghetti as you can manage.
Yeah, no, I think that is literally perfect for this kind of scenario. And again, for blind playthroughs, you want to feel like you're in the spaghetti
Mm-hmm.
of being like, where the heck is this even taking me, and how do I even move on? So adding more locations that have weird connections, yes.
Yeah. All right. The Return to in general, like I know it's not even in print anymore. I hope it comes back in print in some fashion, even
Yeah,
just for the player cards. But it's a good addition if you are sick of playing the vanilla version. It does fix some really important things overall. So
yeah. I think this one more than any of the other ones, quote unquote, fixes issues. That's like its main purpose,
mhm.
and it also adds new variability to a lot of scenarios as well.
Yeah, there's a couple encounter sets that I kind of wish they kept the original ones because the newer ones are like easier. Like
Yeah.
this what is this one? Eldritch Accord. I'll draw cards. uh, but yeah, it's a good time. The Return to is worth playing as as I said before, like maybe the original one is a little stale, not as up to the current card pool. Even just tweaking the difficulty a bit more is good. So
Yep.
good job, designers. But also, we need to bring this into print somehow.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Thank you, SuperFang99, for your assistance and discussion and lots of cool insights for our first discussion of an entire campaign. These have been like hour-long videos, so thank you, viewers, for sticking through it. If you have
Yes.
been sticking through it, pat yourself on the back and then go play Arkham, because I know people love to just sit around and talk about and hear people talk about playing Arkham, but um, I like playing Arkham more than that.
Yes,
It's,
I absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me on. This was a lot of fun, and I hope we can continue.
mm-hmm. And if you haven't already, go check out Superfang's channel with lots of Arkham playthroughs and even some of me playing with Superfang99, a little bit of Circle Undone. If it hasn't been completed by this point, then probably halfway through. Go watch those. All right, thank you everyone. See you in the next one.